A young woman named Jen regains consciousness on a quiet beach after a boating accident. She is lying at the edge of the water with a life jacket still strapped to her, disoriented and unsure of how long she has been there. When she gathers herself and looks around, she notices that another survivor, Brad, has also washed ashore. He is barely conscious and severely injured, with a large piece of coral embedded in his abdomen. Jen calls out for help, but there is no response anywhere around her. The beach is silent, and nothing suggests that anyone else from the excursion has survived. She removes her backpack and drags Brad farther from the tide line so he's not at risk of being pulled back into the water. After that, she removes the coral from his stomach and tries to slow his bleeding with her scarf. Once he is somewhat stabilized, she runs into the nearby forest in search of something to help him. She finds a coconut on the ground and breaks it open with a stone, hoping the water inside will keep him hydrated. When she returns and pours it into his mouth, she realizes he has already died. The loss overwhelms her, but she still forces herself to focus on survival. She now understands she may be alone on the island. However, she does not yet realize that something else has also come to shore. Jen explores the island to assess her surroundings. The land is small, with a thin strip of beach encircling a dense pocket of forest. She walks the full perimeter and returns to Brad's body, confirming there is no sign of nearby settlements or other survivors. Still searching for shelter and supplies, she enters the forest again and comes across a clearing where she finds a bag hanging from a tree and a red cooler left behind by previous visitors. There is no one else around, and the items all appear old. Inside the bag, she finds unused medicine labeled from the 1990s. The cooler contains a few bottles of soda, which she keeps with her supplies. Continuing deeper inside the clearing, she discovers a small box containing matches, playing cards, and miscellaneous small items. Near it is a tent light covering stretched over an old backpack. Inside that bag she finds a mix of belongings, an outdated gaming device, a radio, a book, and a child's toy. The items make it clear that a family had once been on the island long before she arrived. There is no indication of what happened to them. But these abandoned possessions will soon become clues to something far more troubling. Later, Jen hears a noise near the hollow trunk of a large fallen tree. Investigating carefully, she finds a tropical bird nesting inside. She steps back and gathers some leaves to cover Brad's body until she can bury him. With night approaching and the weather worsening, she improvises a small shelter under tree fronds and uses her jacket as cover. Heavy rain passes through during the night, leaving her exhausted and soaked by morning. The next day, Jen collects small fish that have washed up on the shore. As she gathers them, she notices a large shark carcass lying nearby. The shark is split almost perfectly in half, and the wounds suggest immense force. Deep gouges stretch across the body, unlike anything she has seen before. The sight unsettles her. She looks out at the water, confused about what could inflict such damage. She attempts to clean the small fish using a flat stone, but the process is difficult and messy. Eventually, she gives up and returns to the cooler. Going through her belongings, she opens her waterlogged diary. All the ink inside has been erased by seawater. She finds a photograph of herself with her boyfriend Lucas, which momentarily grounds her emotionally. Wandering again into the forest, she reaches a different clearing where she discovers a burial site containing 3 graves. The markers and the tent supplies indicate these are connected to the family whose belongings she found earlier. The discovery frightens her, as the island now feels tied to a history she knows nothing about. But the next morning will reveal that the island's dangers are not limited to its past. When she returns to Brad's resting place the following day, she finds that his shallow grave has been disturbed. The body is missing, and signs in the soil indicate something dragged it away. The sight shocks her, as she had buried him carefully. She sharpens a long piece of wood with a stone to create a makeshift spear. Staying alert, she patrols the edge of the forest, expecting the creature responsible to appear. Hours pass without incident, but she now realizes she is not alone on the island. The next day, Jen sees something floating offshore and decides to swim toward it. She discovers a bucket and a small suitcase drifting in the water. Diving deeper, she notices a massive dark hole in the ocean floor, almost perfectly circular and seemingly bottomless. The sight is unsettling, especially when she considers the mutilated shark and Brad's missing body. She takes the items back to the beach, where she finds clothes and shoes inside. These new supplies give her slightly more protection against the elements. That night, Jen changes into dry clothes and puts on the sneakers she found. While sitting beside a fire, she reopens the metal box and discovers a hidden compartment containing several old photos. She holds them close to the flames to see them clearly. The images show a family visiting the island years earlier. In the final photo, she notices 2 small glowing dots in the background behind the woman holding the bag. At the time, She does not understand what the dots represent. But that answer reveals itself moments later. While examining the photos, she hears the distant hum of a plane engine. Hoping for rescue, she scrambles to load her flare gun. The first shot fails. The second launches successfully, illuminating the sky. She waits for a sign that the plane has seen her signal. As the flare descends across the horizon, a tall humanoid figure emerges from the water in the distance. The brief light shows its outline standing upright in the shallows. Shocked, Jen grabs her spear and runs deep into the forest. She hides behind heavy foliage, listening to faint rustling that suggests the figure is searching around the beach. She stays hidden until silence returns. The next morning, she cautiously leaves her hiding place and walks to the beach. Realizing she must prepare for another night, she attempts to construct a raft from the suitcase she found, stuffing it with life jackets to add buoyancy. She pushes it into the water and tries climbing aboard, but it sinks under her weight. She abandons the idea and drags the items back to shore. As night approaches, she decides to sleep inside the hollow tree trunk she previously explored. From inside, she listens carefully to the forest and shore. At some point during the night, she hears heavy footsteps approaching. The log begins to roll as the creature pushes at it, attempting to reach her. She stays silent, and eventually the creature returns to the water at daybreak. But its persistence confirms that it hunts the island every night. The next morning, Jen emerges from the trunk and focuses on finding food. She catches a small shark by using tiny fish as bait. Recognizing the creature's interest in flesh, she decides to use the shark as bait. That evening, she hangs the shark from a rope and hides, watching to see if the mysterious figure returns. When she briefly closes her eyes, she hears a snap. The shark is gone when she looks up. Only the frayed rope remains. Soon after, Jen notices another body drifting in the water. She swims out and finds the corpse of a man who has been cut in half with similar wounds to Brad and the shark. She concludes that a second survivor from the boating accident, Zach, did not escape whatever lives near the island. She hangs Zach's body as bait the same way she hung the shark. But the creature proves faster and more evasive than she expects. The night of the sixth day, Jen watches the creature take Zach's body and disappear into the sea. She also hears a distant airplane but can't risk revealing her position as the creature's feet pass dangerously close to her hiding place. She remains silent until morning. Realizing she needs better protection, Jen sets up a hammock high in the trees to avoid the creature. That evening, thunder echoes across the island as a storm rolls in. Lightning briefly illuminates the landscape, allowing her to see the creature moving through the forest. It lifts its head and notices her suspended above. She lies still, trying not to breathe loudly. Moments later, the creature pulls the hammock down. She falls to the ground but manages to escape into the forest. She sprints to the beach, and the creature lunges from the water as she runs past, barely missing her. Its behavior confirms it prefers to attack from both land and sea. Injured and exhausted, Jen climbs a tree and shelters there until daylight. When morning arrives, she climbs down and washes her wounds in the ocean. While recovering, she sees a raft with a small tent drifting toward the island. She stares in disbelief, unsure if it's real, before deciding to swim out to it. Inside the raft are two survivors, her boyfriend Lucas and her friend Mia. Their sudden reappearance fills her with relief. She clings to Lucas, overwhelmed that someone has finally reached her after days alone. They bring their supplies ashore to rest. But the safety Jen expects from their arrival will not last long. Jen prepares a simple meal for Lucas and Mia using the fish she caught, coconuts, and the old soda she found in the cooler. The two new arrivals comment on how peaceful and beautiful the island looks, unaware of what has happened over the last several days. Jen immediately warns them that the island is not safe. She explains that she has seen something in the water, something large, humanoid, and aggressive, that comes onto land at night. She also describes the black hole beneath the ocean floor and mentions that several bodies have washed ashore or disappeared. Lucas and Mia listen, but their expressions show doubt. They struggle to accept her account, especially after spending days on the open ocean with no encounters like the one Jen describes. Jen shows them the photos she found, pointing out the two glowing dots in the distance, which she believes are the creature's eyes. She mentions the disturbed graves and the vanished family, but Lucas argues that the best plan is to stay on the island until help arrives. Mia suggests that Brad might still show up. She has not heard the truth yet. Jen gently tells her that Brad died shortly after the accident and that she buried him. She also informs them that his body was later taken by the creature. Mia walks away, shaken by the news. However, Mia and Lucas still do not fully understand the danger that nightfall brings. Lucas asks Jen to describe the creature again. Jen repeats that it is large, has two bright eyes, and seems to move both on land and underwater. Mia tries to calm the discussion by suggesting there might be a misunderstanding about what Jen saw. Jen tells them she would rather risk crossing the ocean on the raft than spend another night exposed on the beach. Mia replies that life on the raft was terrifying and that she and Lucas barely survived. The three discuss possible routes off the island, with Jen proposing that they head west because she has seen planes fly that direction. She hopes that a flight path might increase their chances of being spotted. To gather supplies, Jen asks Lucas for his pocket knife. When she opens it later to cut fish, she notices dried blood on the blade. She looks back toward Lucas and Mia, who are quietly discussing something several yards away. Though confused, she does not press the issue yet. She spends the next hour gathering enough food for a week, expecting to leave before nightfall. But Lucas and Mia's intentions do not match her urgency. When she returns, Lucas and Mia tell her they are not leaving the island. They insist that staying put gives them a better chance of being rescued. Despite Jen's repeated warnings, they refuse to get into the raft. Eventually, Jen stops arguing and walks away to gather her thoughts. She wades into the ocean to calm herself, but when she glances back toward the beach, she sees Mia and Lucas quietly walking off together. Their behavior makes her even more wary. While they are distracted, Mia returns to the shore to pack additional supplies into the cooler. Jen approaches the raft, checking whether Lucas and Mia are aware of her movements. She sees them sitting together on the sand, talking. Believing she has a brief chance to escape alone, she pushes the raft toward the water. Within seconds, Mia and Lucas notice her and race toward the raft. A struggle breaks out in the shallows. Jen kicks Mia several times to free herself. Mia then hits Jen on the head with a paddle, knocking her unconscious as the raft drifts back to shore. Jen's attempt to leave now leads to a confrontation that changes their dynamic completely. Jen awakens after dark tied to a tree. Her head throbs from the blow, and she struggles against the ropes. Mia sits nearby, explaining that Lucas went to look around the island. Jen begs to be freed, insisting she was not trying to abandon them without reason. She reminds Mia of the creature she has described since their arrival. Mia remains unconvinced and tells Jen that she has a history of exaggerating and making things up, making it difficult to trust her judgment. Lucas returns from his search and says that he saw nothing unusual. Jen asks him to untie her, but he confronts her instead. He claims that their presence on the island is partly her fault because she didn't want to stay on the boat earlier in their trip. He accuses her of being unhappy and unstable. Jen tries to steer the conversation back to the immediate danger, stating that the creature attacks from the water, not the forest. Mia eventually leaves the two of them alone, overwhelmed by the tension. But something near the shoreline soon proves that Jen's warnings were real. Along the beach, Mia comes across the mutilated remains of a fish, evidence that something was feeding nearby. Meanwhile, Lucas shifts from anger to expressing his frustrations about their relationship. He tells Jen that she brings him unhappiness and that she always finds a way to ruin good moments. Jen listens quietly, focusing more on her restraints than the argument. She tries again to convince him that leaving before nightfall was the safest plan. Lucas does not respond to this and continues criticizing her decisions. Jen realizes that the dry blood on the pocketknife might be related to Zach, whose mutilated body she found earlier. Before she can confront Lucas about it, a terrified scream erupts from the beach. Mia is being attacked. Lucas grabs a burning log from the fire and runs toward the sound. Jen strains against the rope, using the firelight to guide her escape attempt. She manages to work the knots loose while Lucas reaches Mia. When Lucas arrives, the creature is already dragging Mia toward the water. Lucas swings the flaming torch against the creature, managing to make it release her. But the creature shoves him aside and pulls Mia completely underwater. Lucas can only watch in shock. Jen arrives seconds later and drags Lucas back into the forest before the creature returns. With Mia gone, Lucas finally understands that the danger is real. The next morning, Jen and Lucas descend from the tree where they spent the night. Lucas hesitates, afraid the creature might still be nearby, but Jen reassures him that it has never appeared during daylight. They make their way to the beach, where they decide they must leave the island as soon as possible. Jen spears several fish, and they cook them with the last of their matches to create food for the journey. Lucas silently helps her, still shaken from the night before. When they finish preparing supplies, they pack everything into the raft. Jen boards first and immediately notices dried blood coating the floor. She realizes it matches the condition of Zach's body and understands that Lucas and Mia fought with him before arriving on the island. Lucas does not acknowledge this, and neither of them discusses it. Instead, he begins rowing west as Jen sits in the small covered space, gripping her spear tightly. Before they make much progress, Lucas hears a faint movement beneath the water. Jen listens and feels the raft shift. A moment later, A large hand slaps the side of the raft. Lucas scrambles inside, and together they pull the covering down. The raft shakes violently as the creature rams it from below. Jen watches through the small tear in the fabric and sees its hand passing underneath the floor. They brace themselves as the creature repeatedly strikes the raft. But the creature's next attack forces them directly into the water. The creature pierces the bottom of the raft and pushes its head through the opening. Lucas fires the flare gun at it and misses. He fires again, hitting it in the head. For a brief moment, the creature disappears beneath the surface. Jen begins to relax, believing the worst is over. But then the creature reaches upward and grabs her ankle, pulling her into the ocean. The creature drags Jen deeper and deeper toward the dark hole she had seen days earlier. She struggles to breathe and tries to fight the creature off. Remembering the pocket knife, she draws it and stabs the creature repeatedly. The creature releases her and sinks briefly in the water. As she tries to swim upward, she sees Lucas diving down to help her. Before he can reach her, the creature turns and attacks him. It grabs Lucas with both arms and drags him into the black hole. Jen is powerless to intervene. Now entirely alone again, Jen must face the island one last time. She returns to the shore, exhausted and shaken. The raft, damaged beyond repair, drifts onto the beach with her. She rebuilds the fire and starts writing in her diary about the events of the past 9 days. The entry is meant to help any future survivors who may end up on the island. She also begins crafting weapons from sharpened sticks and bones, including the remains of the family buried nearby. She prepares every tool she can, knowing the creature will come ashore again at night. When darkness falls, Jen begins her final stand. She arranges fish to lure the creature inland and surrounds the area with dry branches that she can ignite quickly. When the creature approaches, she lights the traps, creating a ring of fire that confuses and slows it. Jen attacks with sharpened sticks and bones, striking whenever the creature enters the open spaces between the flames. The creature knocks her aside several times, but she continues fighting, relying on her memory of its movements. As the monster tries to break through the fire, Jen thrusts another spear into its leg. The creature retaliates by slamming her against a tree. She dodges behind the burning circle, using the shadows to her advantage. When the creature approaches again, she stabs it repeatedly. The flames illuminate several deep wounds spreading across its torso. But the confrontation is not over yet. Eventually, the creature grabs Jen by the face and lifts her off the ground. She reaches into her pocket, pulls out a sharpened bone, and drives it into the creature's chest. The creature staggers backward, then collapses onto the sand. Jen steps toward it cautiously, ready in case it moves. When it remains still, she decapitates it to ensure the threat is eliminated. The fire continues burning across the island as dawn breaks. Jen, limping and exhausted, carries the creature's head toward the beach. Smoke rises high above the trees, creating a visible signal for anyone passing nearby. Despite everything she has endured, she walks forward determined to survive.